First of all, I want to thank Niels Erik for inviting me to this conference. My topic will be justice and distribution of scarce resources in pandemics. And we all know that the problem of scarcity of available healthcare resources in relation to the needs of the patients, it's not new. Think about the medicine of disaster or the medicine of war or the problem of organ transplantation and triage. But of course, during the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, the existence of the problem became really very evident in a dramatic way since the beginning of pandemia. And Italy was one of the first countries living this terrible experience, the rapid rise of infection and contagion, and determined an increase of need, and the resources were not for all. And this is a problem still present, unluckily, in this fourth wave of the pandemic. And it is a problem of macro allocation of resources and, above all, micro allocation of resources. So the definition of which patients to cure, who to treat, not to treat, that's the same choice, or the choice of who lives and who dies. So it's really a very difficult question on an ethical point of view. And the main question of on ethics in bioethics was which criterion to distribute. And there was a strong rejection of the criterion of lottery, so causality. We cannot accept causality when we have choices that have to do with life or death. And so the criterion that was shared, I think almost everyone, was the one of justice, so giving each his own. But the real problem that we live in a pluralistic society, so we have a very different way of conceiving justice. So generally, there are three main orientations on the topics. The first one is the liberal libertarian theory that in an individualistic framework interprets justice as assigning to every free individual resources according to merit, capability, free initiative, and contribution to society. In the framework of the theory of the minimum state, maximum market, society is considered not obliged to compensate for the differences or repair damage, since there's no direct duty to help the weak, because the results of a natural and social lottery is considered a matter of to be lucky or unlucky, but it's not a matter of justice or injustice. And so the libertarians put the self-determination at the center. So in this sense, we have a lot of implication on the question of selection of patients, because according to the libertarians, the criterion which we need to use is at the center is the ability to pay, the social worth of the patients, the contribution of the patients to society according to the merits. We may summarize the richest first. We can also say that this theory is not mentioned in the context of the discussion of the COVID-19 pandemic. We all know that the theory is present in the debate, but not applied in the selection of patients, because also all the country and healthcare systems inspired by this model, the libertarian model, have sought and are still seeking solutions to protect public health, because pandemia has to do with public health, not individual health. And we all know that there are a lot of inequalities in the liberal models. According to this position has not been really represented in the discussion. Then we have another orientation, that's the utilitarian theory, affirming that justice means avoiding of sufferings, increase of the quality of life for the greatest number of people. So based on social convenience, efficiency, productivity, qualis means we need to protect the quality of just life years. It means the number of years to live and the quality of life, reducing costs. So this theory justifies the priority of access to patients having the greatest probability of returning to a productive life, with a consequent obligation of non-treating those patients with no or low probability of recovery in terms of quantity or number of years to live and quality of life. So the implications in pandemics brought to a specific position, that is the selection of patients according to age, first of all, because the maximum benefit obtainable by the prioritization of younger people over older people is very productive in society. Older people have less life expectancy in terms of number of years left to live, as well as the presumed level of quality of life, and moreover, they have already lived years of life. Also, the utilitarian applies the criterion of selection of disability. So people with cognitive disability may be postponed in the selection because of the lack of quality of life or the expectancy of quality of life. The debate was very strong, and this position has been represented in many documents of scientific societies of anesthesiologists and intensivists. In Italy, for example, SIA-ARTI, that's this scientific society, published since the beginning of pandemic, so the first week of March of 2020, recommendations of clinical ethics for admission to intensive treatments and for their suspension in exceptional conditions of imbalance. And they wrote in this recommendation that they admitted the possibility to place an age limit on entry into intensive care. They wrote, those who have the most chance of survival and have more years of life saved, with a view to maximizing benefits for the greatest number of people, reducing costs. So this is the criterion of selection that we may summarize as the youngest first. There was a big discussion in Italy and many objections to this theory because of the dignity of human life that overcomes the quality of life, numbers of years to live, and because of the uncertainty and difficulty in calculating the probabilistic prediction of the number of years of life left to live, the subjectivity of a way of understanding quality of life, and also because using age as a selection criterion does not consider the individual physiological variability of individual person, regardless of age. And this is true above all today. We all know the progression of the personalized medicine, of precision medicine. So there was a strong reaction against libertarian and utilitarian theories that I saw in many documents of bioethics committee, national committees of bioethics, that are much more inspired on egalitarian perspective, personalist perspective, communitarian perspective, that is, approaches the only one really compatible with the human rights or the fundamental right to health, recognized to every human being, regardless of age, ability, or disability. And we need to think about all the international declaration, first of all, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Bioethics, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and also the UNESCO Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Bioethics, many constitutions, and also deontological codes. So I think that when we talk about fundamental right to health, we mean that everyone has an access without any kind of discrimination to cure, care, and equality and the same opportunity to have access to health. So in this sense, justice means giving each his own, means giving to every human being or to every human being according to the need. So according to this perspective, natural and social inequalities are not tolerable and need to be repaired, corrected, compensated, because everyone has a dignity and we need to be responsible and we need to take a sort of solidaristic attitude toward weak patients. That's why the real answer to the question which criterion for selection of patients when distribution of resources are scarce. I think, and we think in the Italian National Committee for Bioethics, for the majority of the members, that the only one criterion to be applied is the objective medical criterion. That is the evaluation of the clinical situation of the patients, considered case by case, regardless of age, ability, disability, and quality of life, and so on. So urgency, severity of illness, prognostic efficacy, of course, applying the ethical principle of proportionality and appropriateness of care. And I saw this line of reflection in many documents of European national committees. I'm thinking about France, the National Council on Bioethics, also Spain, Austria, Portugal, Luxembourg, San Marino, a document also on the selection of according to disability, Slovenia, and also Sweden. Triage in primary care units, I found this very similar perspective of Italian committee. And the Italian committee wrote the opinion the 8th of April of 2020, few weeks or 1 month after this scientific society of anesthesists and analgesists and therapists, intensive therapists, and we wrote a document on the clinical decision in conditions of lack of resources and the criterion of triage in pandemic emergency. And we underlined the principle of justice, fairness, and solidarity to offer all people equal opportunities to reach the maximum health potential allowed in the circumstances. Any other selection criterion, such as, for example, age, sex, condition and social role, ethnicity, disability, or responsibility for behaviors contributing to the pathology cause, is deemed ethically unacceptable by the committee. And that was the position of the Italian Committee for Bioethics. We had only one dissenting opinion, recalling the utilitarian perspective and say that age is an extra clinical criterion that need to be applied in circumstances as the one of COVID-19 and circumstances of emergency, of scarce resources. The position of the application of a clinical egalitarian criterion was also underlined by DHBio, the Committee of Bioethics of the Council of Europe, in the statement in the context of the COVID-19 crisis, and also in the statement on COVID-19 ethical considerations from a global perspective of IBC, the International Bioethics Committee of UNESCO, together with COMEST, the World Commission of Ethics in Science and New Technologies. And that's why, concluding, what are the lessons learned, or we cannot talk, unluckily, with the past, but the lessons to learn in pandemia. And we all know that inequalities already exist, but the challenges raised by COVID-19 pandemia tend to worsen them. So we need to reduce injustice and try as far as possible to promote justice according to the intrinsic meaning of equality, non-discrimination, and equity, in the sense of inclusivity and inclusive health, considering that no one should be left behind or excluded, and that we need everyone a very strong effort to guarantee affordable access for everyone according to the needs. really thank you for your attention, and thank you again for inviting me to this very interesting conference.
Shall we give Laura an applause?